Hi, this is Paul McGUIRE, and you are listening and watching the Paul McGUIRE Report. If you have mass populations that have been dumbed down and they don't have even the most minimal answers to questions of money, economy, power, structure, governance, etc., then they are set up. They are literally set up to fail, and they have been cleverly set up by a globalist elite for the purpose of being enslaved. You have to understand that the bottom line of the globalist elite, the end game, if you will, their end game is to enslave all of mankind, with deception, with error, with scientific mind control, with brainwashing, and other psychological operation techniques that are designed to program people and program them into non-thinking slaves. I know that sounds harsh. I know that sounds somewhat brittle, but I would fail you completely if I was to shy away from telling you the objective truth about things, because Jesus Christ told us that it is only when we know the truth that we can be set free. If I was to shy away from my duty before God to communicate to you the objective truth, then my failure to communicate the truth to you could easily lead to the enslavement of either yourself or your children or grandchildren. They could very well be subjugated and turned into slaves that would serve in some kind of dysfunctional, dystopian New World Order. By the way, you need to visit paulmcguire.us. That's paulmcguire.us. I suggest that you do that before this message is over. And when you go to paulmcguire.us, why don't you support us as we spread the truth and pray for us and partner with us. There's so many ways you can do that. You know, no one can win the spiritual battle and the battle for reality that's raging all around us. Let me give you an example, and you're aware of most of this stuff anyway. But going back to my childhood and some of your childhood, and depends what age group you're in. But I remember the big debate when I was a kid. Now remember, I was raised in an atheistic, transhumanist, humanist household, okay? My father and mother mocked Christianity. Okay, they mocked it. They thought it was a religion of uneducated people. And this is what they actually thought, and this is what they actually taught me. They communicated to me that Christianity was an anti-sex, anti-joy, anti-love religion. I mean, that's a big trip, but that's what I was taught to believe. I was also taught to believe, to think for myself and to read, and I learned to love reading, and reading is such a tremendous source of power. Now, what I learned was that there was a big debate, I remember in my childhood, and again, I wasn't from a Christian home, but the question was always asked, was Hollywood and the entertainment industry responsible for the decline in morals and promiscuity in America, or was it the other way around? Was Hollywood simply a mirror to the declining morality that was already pre-existing in society? And it went back and forth like a ping pong ball. But I will say this, and I don't think it's fair to entirely blame Hollywood and the entertainment industry for the decline of morals, because if the public did not want entertainment and music and movies and TV and myriad forms of entertainment, if the public was not hungry for, if the consumers did not have a desire to consume media, TV, film, music that was contrary to biblical morality, there would have been no market for it. So it's not entirely honest to say, well, Hollywood is responsible for the decline in morality in America. It may be to a degree, but it's not entirely the fault of Hollywood, because once again, if the people didn't want material that was suggestive or had nudity or featured sex or whatever, there would be no market for it. Okay, so, but to show you the power of media to change human behavior, thoughts, and ideas, let me throw something out to you. So when I was a kid, most of the black and white TV shows like Leave It to Beaver and others, Leave It to Beaver's parents, it was really odd, but they slept in the parents' bedroom, and the mother slept in her own bed, one bed, and the father slept in his own bed. So Leave It to Beaver's parents slept in two different beds, which is, by the way, not biblical morality. It's kind of abnormal, because it reflects a prudery that's non-biblical. There's nothing wrong at all with a husband and wife sleeping and excuse me, it's this constant change of atmospheric conditions in Southern California that drives me crazy. Okay, so it's abnormal for a husband and wife to sleep in two separate beds. But that was considered by Hollywood the safe way to portray marriage. Now, ironically, in my life, you grow up fixated on some character in a TV show as a child, and you may watch any given TV show for year after year, or perhaps decades. That was the case with me and millions of other young children in that time zone, where we watched the show Leave It to Beaver that featured the beaver, and it was like a family comedy. So you bonded deeply with a fictional television character. I did, and millions of other kids did. So what happened many decades later, I was a producer in film and concerts, etc., professionally. My wife was an actress professionally. This was decades ago. and she got hired by a large dinner theater company which produced, you know, luxurious, like 5-course meals in an elegant dining situation, and then there would be a full-blown play enacted before them. So the people would have dinner theater, they dine with fine dining, and they would see a funny, upbeat theatrical play that featured, if not stars, you know, personalities. So what happened was, and I'm laughing because my wife got hired to play the female lead, and the male lead was an actor named Jerry Mathers. And it turns out, I mean, take one look at him, he was the Beaver. So the irony of the whole thing is, my wife is starring in a play with the Beaver from Leave It to Beaver, and we get to hang out with Jerry Mathers, the actor who played the Beaver in the famous Leave It to Beaver series. Now I'm laughing because we could have been exposed to all kinds of stars, and it wouldn't have meant anything to us. I mean, it would have meant something, but it's not fame that becomes exciting. What's exciting is when you bond as a young child to a TV series and a character like the Beaver from Leave It to Beaver, and then as you grow up, you discover that you're going to hang out and work with Beaver in a dinner theater production, and then you hang out with him and go to restaurants and you become friends. But the friendship is fun, but it's also surreal because I don't know what it is, but there's something about your subconscious mind and the mind's ability to bond with characters on TV on a deeper than lifelike level. So that's just a side note. Okay, so, but the point is, the larger point is, when it comes to superstars in music, like pop music, rock music, hip hop, country, rap, and other genres of music, all those stars have millions of fans, and their fans deeply bond with them. That's why they sell so much of their music. They deeply bond with the stars. The same is true with stars of episodic TV productions, stars of big feature films. The audience inevitably bonds with the stars that are being displayed and marketed. So this process of bonding with superstars on a subliminal level, and I'm not saying it's conspiratorial, and I'm not saying that every, you know, quote, star is evil and deliberately doing this. I think most of them may be aware to whatever degree of the process, but what happens, what transpires, is there is a very deep bonding between individuals in the audience and the person starring on TV or music or whatever production that they're seeing. What happens then? That gives a star, a music star, a TV star, a feature film star, athletic star, that gives that star an amazing power of influence and an amazing power of, for lack of better words, almost becoming the total guru of individual members of the audience. It's not like it's planned and plotted, although some people know about it and they take advantage of it, but there's a bonding that occurs. And when that bonding happens, that star or that company or that advertiser or whoever's profiting from the productions and the stardom, they have an inordinate opportunity to, and I'm not saying it's being done nefariously, but they have this amazing opportunity to shape, mold, lead the behaviors, the beliefs, the ideas, the morality or lack of morality, it's all absorbed intensely by the audience members, because there is a quotient at work in stardom. The star who bonds successfully with the audience is given a platform, this incredible cosmic platform, if you will, to influence the behavior, the thoughts, the ideas, the beliefs of the audience on an unprecedented level. It's unprecedented. And the greatest scientific mind control thinkers, the greatest advertising and PR men like Edward Bernays and others, they all understood this. And their basic theories of selling cigarettes to women or whatever product they wanted to sell or whatever politician they wanted to sell were always built on this basic simple axiom. And when you understand this basic simple axiom, you understand the power that can be conveyed. This is the axiom. All human beings, that means you and me, all of us, we want to be perceived as part of the in-group. We want to be accepted by our peers. This is one of our deepest, most primal desires, above any other desire. So these fathers of advertising and propaganda understood this. And they understood that if the masses of Americans saw their stars that they put up on a pedestal, if the masses of Americans saw people that they put up on a pedestal behave in a certain way, act, think, have certain morals or a lack of morals or whatever, that the audience that bonded with these superstars would then desire to imitate. They would then desire to emulate the stars. And this is how, for example, Edward Bernays, the advertising genius, he was assigned the task of marketing and selling the desirability of cigarette smoking to the average woman in America. Prior to the Bernays campaigns, women perceived cigarette smoking and the woman that smoked cigarettes as seedy, as a loose woman, not attractive, not healthy, not desirable. So there were all these negative stigmas regarding women who smoked cigarettes. So what Bernays did is he deprogrammed the American public regarding women and cigarette smoking. He deprogrammed them. And he began to bombard the American public with newsreels of famous, beautiful movie stars smoking cigarettes. He began to bombard the public with movie stars smoking cigarettes and beautiful, attractive, stylish, healthy, vibrant women smoking cigarettes. And so women and the public would be exposed to favorable, positive images of women smoking cigarettes through repetitive videos, film, and images over and over and over again, until a bridge was erected in the subconscious mind where women now, for the first time, women began to perceive that a woman who smoked cigarettes was sexy, was physically attractive, was beautiful, sharp, intelligent, a mover, a shaker, a winner. All these positive attributes were now subconsciously conferred upon women who smoke cigarettes. And what this did in a few short years is it revolutionized the thinking of American women, which at one time a woman that smoked cigarettes was considered loose, sleeps around, not healthy, of a lower caliber woman. He erased that programming through techniques of persuasion and mind control. Fundamentally, repetitive images, by exposing the audiences to repetitive images over and over again. Repetitive images of sexually attractive, beautiful, glamorous women who chose to smoke cigarettes and who were movers and shakers and who were looked up upon by their peers. That, in essence, is a short form version of persuasion and propaganda and mind control. So these same techniques can be transferred over to whether you follow this or that political leader, what your politics are, whether you're on the left or the right, whether you believe in socialism or capitalism. You go down all the different checklists and people's behaviors, people's core beliefs, people's ideas, people's politics, people's theories that they believe in, people's religious beliefs. All of this can be programmed into the human individual by simply utilizing scientific mind control, propaganda, and indoctrination, which boils down to a relatively small set of principles, and if they're used properly, you can take any given individual and change their fundamental belief structures. Okay, you're listening to the Paul McGuire Report. I'm Paul McGuire. Visit paulmcguire.us. That's paulmcguire.us.